Let's talk about a recruitment framework. Most candidates are not going to say yes right off the bat. That is okay. It's important to stick with it because as a local leader, you have the unique power to make this ask. Knowing what motivates this person will help you figure out how to get to that yes. You have the opportunity, win or lose, to organize your community and organize your party around issues that matter. You are not doing this alone. This is a really exciting opportunity for you to get more people involved in doing the work. Hi, everybody. My name is Elyssa. I am your trainer today. I run an organization called Rising Organizers and Rising Organizers Action, which teaches people who are new to organizing the basic skills of what organizing is and how they can be successful at it. But prior to that, I was the training director at Emily's List, where I did a lot of teaching around candidate recruitment. So I created the new fellowship that Emily's List has, which it exists to create a pipeline for underrepresented women, particularly women of color, to run for office. And I'm very passionate about people running for office. And so I'm very glad to be able to be here with all of you today and bring some of that lesson. We're going to get started. We are going to do three main things today. The first is explore strategies for persuading people to run for office. The second, explain the impact of running for office. You all know this because you're here, but it's important to talk about it so you can share that coaching, that encouragement with other people. And finally, identify systems of support in place for those running for office. You are not doing this alone. Many people have done this before you. This is a really exciting opportunity for you to get more people involved in doing the work. So let's start with an icebreaker. What you all are asking people to do is take a big step. And so we want you to reflect on your own experience taking big steps. So describe a time when you were reluctant to take a big step, but it turned out really great and what it was like. So type your answers into the chat. I will hopefully be able to pull them up myself. Joyce had trouble getting money for an election, seems like. Tarrant County Democrats had trouble starting their own business or were reluctant to. It turned out really great. Great. Perfect. Can I get one more example in the chat? Changing your major. Oh, there's so many. Perfect. These are all great. I love all of these things. Wonderful. So you all are familiar with this feeling, this experience. That's good. It's going to help you relate to the people you're talking to. Let's talk about a recruitment framework. This is thinking about how to ask the people that you want to run for office to run. Let's assume you've already made a decision as to who you want to ask, right? These are people who are really involved in your community, people who you really respect, people that maybe have a name for themselves, people that are really known and invested in the place where you're trying to get them to run. So let's talk about what a conversation with that person might look like. First thing you want to do is introduce the idea of running for office. This is not surprising. So often this takes people back. So have any of you seen, oops, sorry, didn't need to do that. Have any of you seen Parks and Rec? You've seen Parks and Rec, drop it in the chat. So there's a scene in Parks and Recreation where Leslie, is the main character, basically gets cornered by these Democratic Party officials to run for office. And she's totally taken aback. That's basically what you would expect to happen here. We could probably find that scene and drop it into this training deck now that I think of it. So this is probably going to surprise some people. It's okay. Be prepared to make a case for why they are suited for this role. It can feel overwhelming for some people, or it can feel really exciting to some. It really depends on who you're talking to. You want to then gauge their interest. If they seem open to the idea, they want to have another meeting, both. These are important ways for evaluating over time. You don't need a yes or no from the person you're talking to right away. You just need to gauge their interest. You also need to you might need to do a little bit of persuasion. Talk them through why they should do this. And we're going to talk about how you can do that over the course of this training. And then the final piece is to confirm. So really get them to say, like, I'm open to this idea, get them to repeat it back to you so that you hear it and they hear it. We're going to talk about how to do all of this. And we should say that if someone is a hard no, we should respect their boundaries. But two things. One, they might help find someone who is interested in running in their stead. And two, it's still worth a conversation. So if I go to Dale, who I just met, and I said, hey, Dale, I think you should run for office. And Dale says, oh, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have to stop there. I can ask why. I can ask what some concerns are. And it's possible that at the end of that, I'll still get a hard no. And it's also possible that at the end of that, they might open up a bit. So that's part of the conversation tips that we're going to talk about today. So research shows that most people run for office because they are asked by a trusted source, and that's all of you. So persuading a potential candidate to run won't necessarily be a quick conversation. It's probably going to take multiple meetings, calls, and texts. But remember, every persuasive conversation is going to lead to an ask. It's important to stick with it because as a local leader in the community, you have the unique power to make this ask, and your words carry weight. So one of the things that we studied at Emily's List was that one of the things that was so important for getting women to run was being asked many times. And so thinking about how you need to ask folks many times is an important part of this process. Like I said, most people run because they're asked by a trusted source. Senator Tammy Duckworth, for example, was originally recruited by Senator Dick Durbin, also of Illinois, to run for the House. And although she lost her first race, she ran again. And on her election, she became the first Asian American person to represent Illinois in Congress. And then she ran for Senate and she won, and of course, she's still there. So recruitment efforts can put people on a path to bring about real change. And it's up to you to plant that seed and nourish it. So let's talk about what this conversation flow might look like. The first thing you might want to do is tell your story of self. Let the person you're talking to know who you are and why you care about this position that they may be running for, or why you care about the community that you're both a part of. There is an NDTC lesson on how to tell your story of self, which I'm going to ask Dale to grab and drop in the chat when he can. Think of this as something of an elevator pitch. It's a little bit of demonstrating to this person why you care. You also need to establish credibility with the person you're talking to. Your story is going to be an important part of this because it'll demonstrate who you are and why you care. But to have a successful persuasion conversation, you need to establish that credibility. So that's part of your story. You may already know this person well, that's very possible, or not. But either way, they still may not have an in-depth knowledge of you and your experience. We all know lots of people that we're friends with, but we don't necessarily know the entire breadth of their history, right? So your role, whether as an activist or an officer of the party or a current or former elected official, is a really important one to share, even if it seems really routine to you, or even if you think the other person probably knows it. Remember that most people, even those who pay close attention to politics, are not really deeply involved with their local Democratic Party. And so you want to tell the recruit who you are and what your local party does. For example, you could say something like, I've lived here for 35 years. I've been involved in the party for most of that time, one role or another. And I stay involved because I care about these 2-3 issues. So making it clear who you are, what you've done, how long you've done it, and why you care. Then you want to move on to understanding what motivates the other person. Presumably, you're talking to this person because you've identified something about them that is interesting to you. They have a powerful story. They've been really involved, any number of things. And every successful recruitment effort is going to be tailored to the prospective candidate's reason for considering a run. And that is going to start by finding out why they care in the first place. They may not have connected that to running themselves. So this is about their story of self, not yours. When you figure out what their motivation is for running, whether it's issue-based or broadly ideological, maybe there's party loyalty or they have a career in mind, a successful persuasion effort is going to be tailored to the individual. So you want to pivot from your story to their story. And you could say something like, I know your kids are in elementary school with my grandkids, or I think your background and experience would make you a great candidate for the school board. Something that allows for you to transition from I'm a trusted source to I'm interested in learning more about you. So NDTC's story of self, which Dale's grabbing, if he hasn't already, I can't see the chat right now, is going to teach you how to do this. Like I said, it's going to be really important for these conversations and in general. You also want to think about how you want to map out your communication plan with this person in advance. So when you're trying to recruit someone to run for office, it's important to remember to show interest, but not come on quite too strong. This is a balance. It's an art, not a science. But communication with the prospective candidate should be planned out. So once you've identified this person, it might be helpful to create a communication calendar and set reminders that will help you figure out when's the first time I'm going to reach out and how am I going to do it? Is it going to be in person because I see them at the Democratic Party committee all the time? Is it going to be an email? Is it going to be a phone call? Is it going to be a text? Thinking about what your plan is to lead up to the actual sit-down meeting where you make an ask is going to be really important. Most candidates are not going to say yes right off the bat. That is okay. Even the most enthusiastic people who are really like, I'm ready to go, probably need to discuss it with their partner or their family or think it over or any number of things. So you want to have a plan in place for the follow-up. That's also part of your communication plan. Knowing what motivates this person will help you figure out how to get to that yes. And that's why you want to have this sit-down conversation. So a good rule of thumb is to start slow in this conversation with just you or the person that introduced you to the idea, sending them a text or an email, giving them a call here and there every few days for the first couple of weeks. So you don't want to be all over this person, but you want to be persistent. And then you want to increase the frequency of contacts and broaden the network of people contacting them, the more deeply involved you all get in the campaign and the more invested the person you're talking to becomes. So this is an art, not a science. If you are being totally ghosted, if someone says no, manage your expectations accordingly, okay? So you want to plan out this momentum while being respectful. Nobody likes to feel pressured. Nobody wants to be bombarded with multiple phone calls, but people do want to hear that you really believe in them. It's a special thing to ask someone to run for office. It's to say to them, I see you and I believe that you are capable of doing something really powerful. Not everybody gets to hear that in their lives. And so you communicating that to someone is going to be really important for their journey. So this is a little bit of what a persuasion calendar might look like. It's just an example, take it or leave it. You can see it has email or call the recruit instead of a meeting, call the recruit, actually meet with the person, introduce the idea. In person is best, but if you're far apart, you can also do a call, do a check-in after the weekend, give them some time to think about it. Send them to a training. We love to have them, etc. So thinking through what each person needs and the pace in which you're going to talk to them is going to be a really important step here. So you're going to have your initial conversation. You're in front of the person. Again, ideally, this is in person. It's just you can just make bigger asks in person. I don't know why. It's the magic of relationships. So the initial conversation with this prospective candidate should be simple and straightforward. You want to introduce the idea of the position, explain why you think they would be a good candidate. Again, this is a really powerful thing to do. Most people are not told, I think that you are special and you should do a special thing. And just the act of doing that can be really inspiring for people. You want to lay the groundwork for future conversations here and assess the interest. They may surprise you and say yes right away, but like we said, it's not entirely likely. That doesn't mean that they're going to say no. It means that they probably never thought about it. So you want to give them space to think about it. There's a very good chance they're going to have a pretty neutral, lukewarm response that they have to think about it. But all you need to ask for in this conversation is the opportunity to discuss it further. You do not need to ask for a hard commitment in terms of actually running. So you want to set up a time for the next text, or the next call, the next meeting, and use your judgment on which one to do, right? So if you think that this person needs another full conversation, then you should set that up. This takes work. So again, don't worry about the hesitancy. This is pretty common. People think running for office is something that other people do and that it is very difficult. Some races are really difficult and some races are your local something pretty simple. So you really want to broaden people's imagination as to what they're capable of and manage their expectations of risk. So it's up to you to show the person you're talking to that everyday people can and do run for office. So you also want to check in with this person over time. So the goal of a check-in and by check-ins, we mean shorter, more text, for example, text or a phone call or an email-based conversations. And the goal of a check-in is to remind the prospective candidate that you're still interested in helping them out. So it may not even be a direct ask to think about running for office again. It could be that you know they care about green energy, and so you want to send them a text being like, "Hi, did you see this thing?" And that's going to remind them and remind them of the issues they care about, and remind you or demonstrate that you remember too. So you want to ask directly if they've given the race more thought also, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about that. It can be about the issues that motivate them, because it's going to lead you into a conversation about, have you thought about this thing? So when you see something that reminds you of the person, an article, a bill, whatever, send it along, use it as an opportunity to continue the conversation.
Persuading great candidates takes time and effort. Do you know how you respond if someone says they can't raise enough money to win? To help solve potential challenges, we've linked our free Candidate Persuasion Script in the description below. It reviews how to address candidate concerns about fundraising, the time commitment, and how running for office will affect their job. So download our Candidate Persuasion Script now to make sure potential candidates put their name on the ballot. Now back to the training.
When you are thinking about recruitment, you're going to start off with yourself, because it's all about having those individual one-on-one conversations. But it's not all on you. And I don't want people to feel like they carry the entire party on their back. You don't. You are just having the first of what is going to be many conversations. And in fact, the more a potential recruit hears from not just you, but many other people, the more impactful it's going to be. Because again, telling someone that they are capable of something they never thought of before is a really powerful thing for the person who hears it. So if it's not just me and it's not just Dale, but it's also, all you wonderful people on this call, that creates a lot of opportunities. So more candidates are going to be more confident about running if they hear it from multiple people who think that that's a good idea. So you want to broaden the pool of the people that they talk to. That can be people that you know in the community who are connected to the party or connected to civic engagement in some capacity. That could be their people that you know who know them, who can really speak to their strengths. There's a lot of different people that can be enlisted in this effort. So you can enlist current or past elected officials who can really speak to the experience of being elected, especially if they have held a similar seat to what you're asking for. It could also be someone with star power. So it could be someone in the local community who just is really well known, really well respected. Those are the kinds of people that can help you broaden the pool and help you make asks of the people that you're talking to. So you want to have a sense of who can make an impression in the community and who is already in your know. It's okay for you to call in a favor if you believe in the candidate, right? This is a place where making an ask of someone is going to be a worthwhile thing to do. So after you have your sit down conversation, you have thought about who else they should talk to, you've done some checking in with them, maybe you're on your second or third in-person conversation. It depends on how the relationship is going, right? You want to make a hard ask of the person that you're talking to. So many of you have heard of the concept of a hard ask. It often comes up in fundraising. And hard asks are an ask you make in any context. It doesn't just have to be about money, but it does have a specific urgent request with a clear deadline. So in our case, that could be that the filing deadline for a particular race is getting closer. So that can be the ask might be the filing deadline is getting closer. Can you make time this weekend? Or we've had this conversation a couple of times now, and I want to know how you're feeling. Can you think about if you want to file? I'd like to meet again on Tuesday to hear your final decision. So you want to give them a deadline, not just let them know that there's a deadline in the world that they need to meet, but that they have a deadline with you that they need to meet. So a good hard ask is one that applies not too much pressure or is pushy, but is polite and clear and has a time frame around it. Okay. Getting to a yes and how long it takes to get there completely depends on who you're talking to. This can be a big step for people, especially if you're asking them to run for a really large race, and it's natural for people to hesitate. Your job is to convince them that they are the right person to run and that they can also win, that is worth them running. You might have to speak to both them and their family if they're serious. And so knowing the person, you want to know that the candidate will have to sit with this decision and that you might have to have a bunch of different conversations. So you want to prepare that compelling case for why they're the person to do this, and also be prepared to really make that argument. You also might want to go back to people who have run for this particular seat before. So don't overlook someone who's run for office before if they aren't currently running again. Sometimes people lose the one time and they feel like they can't or shouldn't run again. That is not the case. And in fact, having run before is really wonderful experience. When you're recruiting a prior candidate, you might want to have a slightly different conversation though. So it's not just coming to someone and saying, I thought of you, you're involved. You also have to deal with the fact that they might feel a little burned by their previous experience, or they might not. You'll have to find out. You want to ask, right? Don't make assumptions. If you're recruiting someone who's run for office before, whether they've run for this particular seat or a different one, they're going to have unique concerns regarding the rigors of a campaign because they've done it before. And so they might have won an election and then retired. They might have lost. They might be pausing before seeking their next office. There's lots of different circumstances. And again, this is where being really curious, asking lots of questions, not making assumptions is going to be really important. So when you're recruiting them, you want to highlight how valuable their experience is. They know what it takes. They've done this before. Even if they've lost, they've done this before, and they have learned something from it. Every person who has run, no matter how successful or unsuccessful they have been, has a deeper knowledge of how the system works than a fresh person. You want to offer to help debrief their past campaigns. If it's someone who has won before, they probably have really good insights of how they could apply the tactics that they used last time to what's going on next time. So that's a great opportunity for you to learn about their network. By the same token, if they lost, what did they learn? When I was the training director at Emily's List, we would very often hear from people that ran without any real training or preparation or opportunity, and they would have learned so much about what they wanted to learn going forward to make sure their next campaign was more successful. So that's a really valuable experience if people are okay with seeing it in that light, which they should. And the final thing you want to think about is the network. So you want to remind them that they have an existing network of donors and supporters to call on, win or lose. There are already people in the community that are invested in them and their leadership and want to see them succeed. And because they've done this before, they can really rely on those communities. Many races, especially really local ones, come down to name recognition. They come down to name recognition, fundraising, and relationships. And so having run before gives them a leg up, no matter how that campaign went. All right, so we're at question time. Thank you all for that long chunk. And I'm going to pull up the chat box here so I can see what you all have been asking about. So if you have a question on your mind, drop it in the chat. And I'm going to scroll up through the chat box here and make sure that I hit everybody's questions. Patricia asks, what is the right approach to manage its relationship when you realize the candidate is not qualified for their intended campaign? So Patricia, this is a great question. I also think this is where you need to do a lot of pre-research, because once you make an ask of someone, a cat is a little bit out of the bag. You can, as Joyce responded to you afterwards, you can assess if you can prepare them or not. You can figure out if there's another race they might be more qualified for. Like, let's say you thought somebody was an attorney and actually it turns out they're not. You should have looked that up in advance, but life happens. And so they're not qualified to run for attorney general, right? You can go back to them and say, I'm so sorry. I realize you're actually be better suited for this other position. That's one opportunity. You also can do a little bit of a slow fade, which is not what I recommend. But it's really important for you to research the person and talk to them, get to know them a little bit before you make that ask, whether that's getting to know them in person or getting to know them by reputation or by researching them. Let's see. What are the candidate vetting responsibilities? Susan, that is a great question. Dale, do we have a research module, a self-research module that we can drop in the chat? So every race is going to be different. You want to make sure you cover the basics. So examine people's social media, Google them, Google variations of their name, Google the places that they've worked. Those are some of the big places to start with your candidate vetting. Let's see. Monte asks, Lieutenant Governor candidate in North Carolina, what do you do to get your name recognition, increase name recognition in your grassroots candidate? The thing to do, well, thank you for running. You really want to focus on building relationships and getting your name out there. So building relationships is going to be a lot of going to where community already is, having one-on-one conversations with community leaders. Getting your name out there is going to be, what is your social media plan? What is your communications plan? Where do you need to be seen? That is a common centerpiece of the community. This is why everyone who's running for president goes to the Iowa State Fair. Like, I'm sure that they also love, I don't know, a corn dog. But the reason they're all there is because they need to be seen there. And so you want to identify what that is in your community and make sure people know make sure people know that you're there. Meet as many people as possible while you're there. I'm going through these a little quickly because you all have questions and we have a lot more to get through. So forgive me for speeding through. If you want to run, what's the best way to build your resume? You don't need a resume to run. If you mean your experience, the best way to do it to do this is just to get more involved. Like I said, keep showing up to stuff, keep meeting people. None of it's rocket science. Many people have done this before, and the tried and true methods of really getting involved in your community are really the way to go. Okay, I see John and James have a sort of similar question around convincing someone who is either not likely to win or is kind of going up against some odds, some challenging odds, how to convince them to run. I think there's two separate answers here. If I'm reading your question correctly, it sounds like you are a red +2 district. That might be wrong. That's a swing district, right? So some of this is going to be swingable, and you need to convince the person you're talking to that A, it's worth their time to do that swinging, and B, that they're the right person to do that. And that's going to be up to the person you're talking to and the persuasion conversation you have with them. If you're dealing with a district where it's like R +30, right? Totally bonkers, not going to win this time. I still think it's worth running. I think that we have created a political ecosystem where we only run if there's a chance of winning, because the only thing that matters is the letter at the end of somebody's name. This is a soapbox of mine, so give me a second. It is worth running if you want to improve your community. If you want to organize your community around an issue that matters to you, it is worth running. Even if you don't win, you're going to build local power around the issues that you care about. And so the conversation that I would have with that person would be that's the root, right? It's about organizing for the thing that comes next, for the next race, for the next bill that comes across this person's desk that wants to harm the local waterways. It is about building for the future. Even if they're not necessarily going to win this race, they can always win the next one, and they can certainly highlight issues that are really important in your community. Okay. I'm just running through here. Okay, last question for now. Cheryl said, how many times should I give up? Again, Cheryl, I think it depends on what you want, right? Like, I think that you might want to think about if there's another candidate who is able to speak to a broader audience than you. Having some humility about this work is really important. And I don't know you, Cheryl, I'm sure you're amazing. But if you think that someone else might be better suited for trying this out, talk to them. And you can talk to them from your experience, which makes you really powerful. But also, if you think that you are the right person, and you very well might be, thinking about what you're running for and how you're continuing to organize your community is going to be really important. Don't run just for the sake of doing it. Run because you're trying to build local power where you are. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for letting me talk so fast to get through them. Okay, so let's talk about persuasion. There are a few things that you want to highlight with the potential candidates that you're talking to. The first is the benefits to running. So often people look at running for office and they're really overwhelmed by what it takes, but there's also a lot of benefits involved, and having that conversation is really important. So there are things that make running for office a less burdensome experience. In conversations with these potential candidates, you want to strike a careful balance between being honest about how much work and effort it takes, including fundraising. Yes, they have to raise money, I'm sorry. And how much easier it can be with the proper tools and support, which you are offering, which you're both offering, and also you are part of that support, right? So you want to focus on, again, the benefits to running, that there is a roadmap to victory, which you have done your research on, that they have the support of their community. This is another reason why researching the person in advance and getting to know who they are and meeting them in another setting is really important, and that they have your support. It's really important that they understand that they are not in this work by themselves. So let's talk about benefits to running. So the first thing to highlight is something like, aside from being the change you and the community need, you can build lasting relationships, power, and set up a future Democrat for victory. So this goes back to what we were just talking about of, what if you don't think you're going to win? There's other opportunities involved, and also you might win. Then there's this roadmap to victory. So you might say something like, we know how to win. We've seen people do it in the past, and there's a tried and true method for victory. There are so many tools that NDTC has and that other people have to create really structured, strategic campaigns that help move your campaign forward. So you're not just going to be out there in the dark, you're going to have real support. Having a calendar. So running for office is definitely a big time commitment, and we should be honest about that. And also it's why you're there, it's why you have the support, and also it's why we have structures like a calendar. We have deadlines that are already set for us. We have the very well-studied science of campaigning. We know what campaigns should look like, and you can build a structure and a calendar around those things. And they have the support of their community. So, you know, they're not going to do this alone. They have family, they have friends, other people that are going to support them, and also they have you, right? Okay. And also they have, like I said, they have this network. It's not just even just you, it's going to be other members of the party, people who are excited about their leadership, things that are going to help propel them to victory. So they have, you want to come with a candidate support plan filled out and ready. So this is a plan that helps you lay out the ways in which you're going to help this individual build and win their campaign. So they're going to have a lot of questions. If you're recruiting them, you have to do the work in advance. Okay, discussion question. What else do you think you might want to highlight in these conversations with candidates to recruit them to run for office in your community? If you were thinking about the conversations you need to have, maybe there's even a person you have in mind. What do you think you need to prepare? What do you need to highlight in those conversations? Fundraising is very often the thing that intimidates people a lot. So being ready to answer that question is going to be really important. Knowledge about the issues is important. Great. How to get more people on your campaign, on your team. Absolutely. Let's talk about some common concerns that folks have when they're running for office. So here's a discussion question. What is a reason someone might hesitate when it comes to running for office? So drop in the chat what you're thinking. Family or job, worry about the effect on their children, time commitment, cost, great. Fear of losing, backlash, perfect. You guys are so prepped. Look at this. Hesitations, you've already listed all of them. So some of the major hesitations that we see here. Time commitment. It takes a lot of time. People have jobs. Running for office is not a paid job. You cannot get paid to run for office. Which understand uncertainty about how to raise money. Many people are not fundraisers. They're not comfortable asking for money. Can feel really overwhelming and intimidating. Lack of political experience or lack of experience in general. So they may feel like they are not prepared to be the person in front of the room. And professional and personal backlash. So everything you guys were saying about certainly backlash, but concerns about their family, are they going to have their privacy invaded? You know, those are things that are potential things to come up. So this is why we can't stress enough how important it is to level with potential candidates and have open, honest discussions about the time commitment, fundraising expectations, and the impact on their personal life. Fundraising expectations, you can actually research in advance. You can look at how much money has been raised for this specific race before, and that is a real resource at your disposal. A candidate, you also want to make sure that family or professional concerns are really addressed and take them really seriously. A candidate cannot function at 100% without their family buying into them running in this race. So you want to have this talk before you're really finalizing somebody to run. So if you wait and you're like, this is great, Dale's my person. Dale, I'm so glad you're running for office, and I don't talk to Dale about this stuff, there's a real possibility that once Dale figures out that these are problems, that he's just going to drop entirely. And I've wasted some of my time with someone who was not actually prepared for the race. Of course, in real life, Dale is prepared for everything, but go with this example. So let's talk about how to address these different concerns. Time commitment. Again, you want to be transparent. You're right. This is a big time commitment. You're going to spend a lot of time on the phone, attending meetings, etc. Can I set up a call with some XYZ so you can hear their experience? So giving them the opportunity to learn from someone who's done it before, who can talk about the challenges. If you've run for office yourself before, you can talk about that, but you don't have to be everything to everyone. You don't have to have all of the experience and the answers. You just have to make sure that their questions are heard by the appropriate person. That's why you're a facilitator of this person's leadership. Uncertainty around raising money. This is why doing research in advance is very important. So you want to come in knowing how much person has raised, how much the previous person who ran for this seat has raised. That might be the incumbent. It might be that it might be an open race. There's lots of different opportunities out there, but you want to know what that number is. Now, 4,500 probably means an incredibly small local race. Sometimes races can be really expensive, and you want to think about that when you're asking this person to run. It is unlikely, depending on who the person is, it is unlikely that unless they have a very large profile, it's unlikely that that person is going to be able to raise the multi-million dollars to run for Congress on their first run. It's possible if you are Tammy Duckworth, because you have a name and a profile already. So it's possible, but it's going to take a lot of work. And so you want to be thoughtful about what office you're even asking them to run for. Do not ask a first-time candidate to run for Senate, probably. Again, name recognition rules apply, but you want to think about this when it comes to having them raise money, because raising money is what, unfortunately, really matters in our political system. So you want to come in with what that number is. You want to come in with a plan to help them reach it. You want to help them see where that money can be raised from. We have trainings about that too. You really want to make sure that this is accessible to them. Lack of political experience. This is where really keying in on what they do have and their involvement in the community is so important. So someone who is, a regular at the local town hall, people who go and engage with politicians because they find they are invested in their community, people who own a local business, people who are teachers. These are all people that are experienced with their community, even if they are not experienced with politics. And that's the thing that matters. And your job is to convince them of that, which is accurate. But emphasize, as it says here, that the important thing is to be able to speak authentically about what you care about. It is not about being a lawyer who has run for office before. Everyone started at the beginning, and we don't need to only have lawyers run for office. We also love lawyers run for office, but you don't always have to be the cookie cutter example of what a typical politician looks like. It's better for our democracy if we have a variety of backgrounds and experiences. And then professional backlash. So listen, this is where vetting is important, and it's important for them to be transparent with you about any number of things. I'm not going to speculate, but there are strategies you can approach for that dumb thing you tweeted in college, first of all. And second of all, there are also opportunities. So talking to the person about how running a campaign is going to boost their profile or build their network, help them gain some skills that are going to be transferable to other jobs. These are other parts of the conversation that you want to have in order to address some of these concerns. So let's talk about the impact of running for office. And this is really important for a lot of reasons, but it is so crucial in having these persuasion conversations with the people in your community that you're trying to get to run, because they are demonstrating how important this is going to really motivate them. So how do you do that? You want to talk about, for example, key policy issues. Are they passionate about a specific problem in your community or specific opportunity? That is a place to really emphasize the difference that they could make if they win. So, for example, Tammy Duckworth originally ran for Congress because she was passionate about veterans issues, and she had the story to really back that up and made her really powerful. That's why you want to say things like, we need a champion for this issue that you care about. You also want to emphasize the ability to bring broad change to the community. Many of us look around at our communities and we see issues big and small that we wish could be different. And being an elected official is one of the most powerful ways that you can address some of those problems. So winning this race, as it says here, this might be a good line to use. Winning this race will bring change to the community. It will give you, person I'm talking to, the ability to make a direct impact on the issues you've already told me that you care about. You know, a lot of folks are animated by a lot of different issues. That's also great. If they are a longtime Democratic activist, they might be excited by the chance to help a broad range of things. That's awesome. That's great. And also, again, being in office is a great way to bring about broad change. The other thing is what I was saying earlier about the power, I'm going to say the power of losing, which is to say, you have the opportunity, win or lose, to organize your community and organize your party around issues that matter. So we have seen Stacey Abrams run for governor of Georgia and lose twice. But what she has done for Georgia has been astronomical. And I think we all agree on this call. So in raising her profile by running, in organizing Georgians around issues that matter to her and that matter to the people of Georgia, she has made significant impact on the future of Georgia as a state. And so having that opportunity to get to know your community better, to build local power around the issues that matter to you, that is one of the benefits of running for office, win or lose. And that's why I encourage people to run for office all the time. You also have the ability to inspire others. So if you're talking to someone who has a really powerful personal story, for them, that's just their life. They may not know how powerful it is. And so you want to reflect back to them why it's so important for them to inspire other people in the community. So for example, you might want to say, it's time for a new voice. I think your run will excite people and motivate them to step up and help organize the community. Or I think your story is so powerful that it's going to motivate other people to act. You are providing them with an outside perspective that they do not have of themselves. And so you want to think about how to do that most strategically. So here again is sort of the persuasion framework that we're suggesting for these kinds of conversations. The first is this initial conversation. Are they interested? Get to know them, etc. I would actually argue there's probably like a floating mysterious top one where like, how you've met them in person. You probably met them or heard of them or saw them on a Zoom once or something, right? There's something up here, something that leads you to have this initial conversation. So you have initial conversation. You're going to have your follow-ups and check-ins. It's going to happen with your calendar so that you're talking to them consistently, but not in an overwhelming way. You're going to broaden the pool of recruiters so that they are getting support from lots of different sides of the community. And then you're going to make your hard ask because you have stuff to do. So your hard ask is going to have a timeline. It's going to be specific, and you're going to ask them to make a commitment. So that's our training for today. So we have our final questions block. So if there's anything you're thinking about, now's the time. And I'm going to scroll up through here and see what questions you all have already put here. Does all the money raised for your campaign go to only paying for your campaign? For example, why is it the candidate send out fund requests at the end of the month saying this meet a fundraising goal? It's at our own goal. Okay, so Ruth, this is a great question. This is some insider baseball. So campaigns have to report how much fundraising they have done at the end of specific quarters. So the reason that you get those like deadline things is because, well, one, the deadlines are real. They have to pay for their staff for the next month. Those are real things. They really are real deadlines, and they set their own budgetary requirements to accomplish things. And also because they have to do that report out, it's a really important part of the political process. So if you've raised a lot of money, you look like a more competitive candidate. And so that's why you get those sort of like end of quarter, end of month things. But they're also real deadlines. Like people really have to pay their staff. So it is only for your campaign, but they're not made up. They're part of the budget that the campaign has created. Oh, Jeff already said that. Thanks, Jeff. You want to run if you have a Democratic primary. Same rules apply. The same rules applies in other races. I don't know if NDTC has anything about running in a primary, but in general, when you're running in a primary, the thing you want to focus on is differentiating yourself from the other candidates. You want to do that in a way that is respectful and is based in issues, not personality, because you're going to need these people. But you really want to think about what makes me different from the other candidates and how can I demonstrate that? It can be a difference in experience. It can be a difference in policy, but make sure that it's professional. Ruth, the quarterly report goes to the Board of Elections in different states and regions and things. Debbie, are there suggestions or guidelines about communicating local recruitment with state level party? That is a great question. You know, I think, Dale, you can jump in here too if you have any ideas, but I think that it's the opinion of NDTC that you would do this in coordination with the party. That doesn't necessarily mean that you are a party official, but that you know what else is going on in the community, right? Like if the party is already really behind somebody, which happens, and that's not your person, that's good for you to know. It doesn't mean not to do it, but you do need to know because that's part of the case that you're going to have to make to the person you're talking to. What if it's a nonpartisan election? Arthur, do you mean in terms of recruitment or do you mean in terms of something else? Generally speaking, same rules apply, right? If you're running for a nonpartisan judgeship, you're still going to need to raise money. You're still going to need to make your values known. You're still going to have to demonstrate why you're the right person to run. You know, a lot of this is kind of tried and true tactics. It doesn't matter if you're running in a primary or a nonpartisan race or what level of race you're running for. Cool. All right. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Dale.
You're probably pumped and ready to start recruiting, but it's important to ensure you're recruiting the strongest candidates possible. In this next training, you'll learn effective methods for finding strong candidates and what they all have in common. And for more, take one of our free self-guided courses linked in the description below. Thanks for training with us today.